Let's talk about the ACAC right now because last year we thought nobody could possibly
No way.
beat South
Beat South
Adams.
Adams.
They were a juggernaut.
What happened in
And then we
regional?
saw Adams Central a few weeks after putting a regular season drubbing on the Jets. The Jets come back and knock them out in the playoffs. To me, one of the most impressive performances of the season last year.
Yeah.
So how does it stack up? Because we weren't sure with Adams Central. We thought after the Logan Macklin era, they would drop off last year, and here they are beating South Adams in the postseason and becoming one of the better teams in the area, especially in the ACAC.
If there's a single guy in the area, a single coach that likes to lower the expectations any more than Michael Mosier, it would be tough to name one because Mosier, and maybe he really doesn't believe it. But last year he was talking about hopefully we just get to 500 and then they go out and win 13 games,
That's
right?
true.
And they knock off South Adams. But we were buying into that, right? We were saying, all these guys are gone. And all these sophomores and juniors just stepped up, particularly that sophomore class last year that just blew up. And I don't think even Michael Mosier knew just how good those guys were going to be.
Entirely in those guys.
And throwing them in on Friday nights and grew throughout the year and obviously the huge win over South Adams in the regional. And so I still think it comes down to South Adams and Adams Central. I think South Adams is still number one, and I think Adams Central is there as a clear number two, and I think there's a colossal drop to everyone else. And what happens between those two teams, both in the regular season and the postseason, we'll see.
With South Adams, is this a state or bust year? Because this is the class of seniors that you have targeted for so long. You saw the growth as sophomores, took the big jump as juniors, and now it's kind of their time.
Right.
If it's going to happen for the Starfires, it's going to happen this year.
As devastating as that loss to Adams Central was last year, it's now immense amount of fuel for South Adams. They were able to use that throughout the offseason and workouts, and even when they were getting together just as players, doing some practices without coaches when they weren't allowed to get together. That has been the overriding boost for them is that loss. And if they can turn it into a positive, then absolutely they can make a run to state. But if they also overlook teams again, like they did last year against Adams Central in the regional, after beating them by 28 points or whatever it was, then they're going to lose again. So the talent is big still at South Adams with that senior group, even some of those juniors as well. But Adams Central, too, you have to watch. I know they only lost a couple guys. When you look at Dallas Schwaller's gone, Ben Vorel on the edge of that defense. But Dallas Schwaller in particular is a humongous loss for them because he was such a leader on both sides of the football. They don't beat Northfield in the sectional without Dallas making some big plays vertically in that game. And when you look at 1A programs and they lose, you say, oh, they only lose 4 or 5 guys. But when they're playing both ways and there's only 40 guys they dress, I mean, losing.
And they're the right guys.
Yeah, and they're the right guys. That means a lot at 1A football. So I still expect Adams Central to be there. I just think maybe people are taking for granted what they lost a little bit more than they should.
Here's one team that I really like, and I think they're closer to the Adams Central level than maybe most people think, is Bluffton.
Yeah.
They're coming off a couple of 7-win seasons. Daddy Kunks has got it working down there at the turf of Fred Park Field. Hayden Nern, it starts with him at quarterback. He's grown a couple of inches in the offseason. I was down there to their practice, was impressed. He looks like that prototypical quarterback, which there aren't a lot of drop-back throwers as far as the ACAC goes. And then Cody Middlestead is just productive high school running back.
Sure.
I like what they've done, and I like that the culture is now – they've gone from being a surprise winner to a team that expects to win 6, 7, 8 games in a season.
The big hurdle for Bluffton, I think, is being able to compete with the top 2 in the conference. I think we saw it last year. Okay, they're probably on a level all their own compared to everybody else in the conference. But, man, they still just got drubbed by Adams Central and drubbed by South Adams. So the bar has been raised, and Brent Kunkel knows that, okay, we're at this level, guys. The toughest thing is to climb to that next level. And you look at what they have coming back, particularly offensively, you feel, okay, maybe they can make some plays and compete against those Adams County schools. So that's the big challenge, I think, for Bluffton once again this year is to prove something that they can hang with some of the elite.
Casey Kolkman back as a head coach in the area. That's a good thing.
Yep.
I think
Give him a couple of years.
At his alma mater at Heritage, he's got, to me, one of the most interesting prospects out there because, man, this guy passes the eyeball test in Kiel Eldridge.
Yep.
Got an offer from Purdue, got a MAC offer out there. How long till Heritage is back in the conversation? Because I was out there, and I think Coach Kolkman's going to get them back to the point where they're competing in this conference pretty soon.
I could see a couple wins this year, potentially. I don't see a dramatic turnaround so quick, but We've seen Coach Kolkman do it before. He did it at Bluffton. He did it at Northside. He'll do it at Heritage. Just give him a couple years. It's his alma mater. He's super excited about being there and bringing some philosophies that he's learned at his other stops at Bishop DeWanger too, most recently. So it's going to be a couple years. There's some talent there. You mentioned Eldridge and a couple other guys. Give it 2 years, and I think they could really, make some noise in the ACAC.
It's weird that we're talking about the ACAC and not talking about Woodland.
No Woodland, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, they went to state a couple years ago.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more than a couple years. It's 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, but it's, relatively recent.
But at a time, they just own this thing.
Yeah, and for a couple years, they were just, it was an afterthought. Woodland wins the ACAC, right? And
No Sherwood Haydock anymore.
yeah, no Sherwood Haydock. You had a couple really, really strong classes come through there. And Sherwood Haydock maximized that talent and got all the way to the state championship game. And we felt had it won there until, some crazy stuff in the fourth. So it's a rebuilding thing for Woodland now. I don't know if they drop as far as Heritage did, but I think it's going to be a couple years. They need some strong groups. They need to develop groups too, and not just rely on one or two really strong classes to come in.